Welcome to another episode of the Palace Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in, House Huddlers! Huddle up! That was much better than the last one.
I know, we rested.
Yeah.
We had time to really work on it. I was doing it in the shower every day.
That's all you were doing, right? This is the explicit version.
Right. You can drop that right away, the explicit version. So.
That's okay. You were in the shower. I was overseas working on my modeling career.
Oh, did you run into any bears?
I may have. I might have been giving him some pointers, actually.
There you go. So, there you go.
No, it's been one hell of a couple weeks for me with work. So unfortunately, we have not been able to put an episode out. So apologies to everyone who has been supporting us along the way. But it's the off season. Not a lot to talk about right now.
There's a big time lull, I would say, in the NFL season right now. Even on like coverage that you see.
Yes.
You know, so I think we're okay.
Yeah.
We'll get things out as we do in the off season, and we're looking forward to training camp, preseason, and then obviously the regular season.
Yeah, I have not talked to my wife.
But you're going to miss game one.
I am going to miss game one. It might be game one and game two. I have to look at the dates. I will be in Punta Cana for my 15-year wedding anniversary.
That's a good reason to miss.
I think so. I'll have to try and stream the game from the Dominican Republic. I don't know how it's going to work, but I have not talked to my wife, Ashley, about this yet, but I am planning on making to at least one training camp session. So hopefully that'll give us some fodder to talk about. Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, and if anyone's going, let us know in the comments. I'd love to, meet up. If I end up going, tickets go on sale July 6th at 10 a.m. So, and I say on sale because they're free. You just first come, first served basis. So
this is episode 48. You got any 48 Bears?
Okay, so Patrick Scales was the guy that came off the top of my head. The only guy that came off the top of my head.
That's a weird number.
It is. So I had to look it up and see who was out there. And I have two other names for us, just really quick. All right?
I only have Scales, so whoever you're about to say, I probably won't even know.
Okay, so these guys, I had no idea who they were, but and any of our older listeners might know this, but the guy's name is Alan Ellis. Apparently, he was a beast of a defensive player back in the 70s. So yeah, good for him. Again, I have no clue. I did not start watching football until very late 80s. Very late 80s. But then the other name that I had to throw out there, he only lasted 1 year, 1964.
Ooh, okay.
His name was Tommy Neck. And I wrote it down only because it reminded me of that meme with that guy with the really thick neck.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of hilarious comments, but there was one about how he just eats peanut butter, chugging it out of the jar. So I just had to throw that guy's name out there. I have no idea who he is, no idea what position he played, but the guy's name was Tommy Neck.
I hope he was a linebacker.
I had a feeling he was
he's a kicker. That's a waste of a name. That's a waste of a good name for a kicker.
But we'll call this the Patrick Scales episode.
It's got to be. It's got to be. I didn't dig as deep as you on the research. So.
Yeah. I had the wrong episode number in my head, so I didn't even have this correct to begin with, but we fixed it before the show. So,
okay.
So this show is going to be about we have 5 players who have the most to prove in 2023. And that could go a couple different ways in how you interpret it. When we first brought it up, Justin was the one that kind of came up with the idea. And in my head, I was thinking most important players. But if that was the case, DJ Moore would be on here, and he does not make the list because he doesn't really have much to prove. I think he's done that already. He's top 5 in yards during the time that he's been in the NFL.
Yeah, he's a proven commodity, not with the Bears, obviously.
Correct.
But the Bears don't have a great legacy of receivers. So I'm pretty sure whatever he puts up this year is going to seem damn near historic.
Yeah.
If he eclipses 1,200 yards, he'll slot in right around 7th or 8th, I want to say, for best yardage season Bears all history.
Yeah, and I'm assuming Elshon Jeffrey is on that list because he had 1 year with like 12 or 13.
I believe so.
And maybe a Brandon Marshall
year.
Yeah.
Actually, Marshall I think has the highest, and it's not too impressive.
Brandon Marshall's in the top, I want to say top
for career.
5 for career, and he was only here for like 4 seasons. What's crazy is the top guy hasn't played since what?
Johnny Morris.
Was it the 70s?
Oh, I don't know. 60s maybe.
60s into the 70s?
I think so.
Late 60s? Yeah. So again, way before my time. I know someone called us out on it in the comments before. I apologize.
No, thank you.
I know the name. I just don't know the player to speak to him.
Right.
So.
And he shouldn't still be holding the records.
No. I mean,
not only has the game changed, but that's just too long to hold on to the record with not that high of a total.
Right.
The big joke is that Justin Jefferson is apparently going to pass the Bears' all-time leader this season.
It's not a joke, though. It's sad.
It is sad, but I mean, he's really great. The game has shifted to being a passing game.
Yes. Yes. But when
17 games in a season now.
When Muhsin Muhammad came here and then left and then said that this is where receivers go to die, I took that like I was pissed. I hated him. Like, fuck you. He's not wrong.
Well, like the tides could be turning finally.
I sure hope so.
So I guess that brings us to
talking
about some of these guys.
Brings us actually to the first player because without him, the receivers aren't going to do shit.
That's right. Tevin. Oh wait.
I mean, if we don't have an offensive line,
true, but that's not who we're talking about.
No, it's our number one. It's him. It's Justin Fields. He's got the most to prove, right? Like he has more to prove than anyone else on this team, in my opinion. And that's why I put him first.
Right. And I mean, it's just the position itself.
Yes.
Like everything is about the quarterback. It's what the Bears have really not ever had.
Yes.
And so even when they've had success, they've done it with, great defense and some luck and good running game, but that's not going to sustain success. We hope he's the answer.
I mean, Eric Kramer is our quarterback of top history here for records, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
No 4,000-yard passer ever.
Nope.
So,
you thought Jay Cutler might have been that guy. Unfortunately, injuries, I think, kind of ruined that from happening. Mitch Trubisky, some people thought could have been that guy. I still like Mitch Trubisky. I never thought he was going to be elite, but I think he's better than some people think. Justin Fields, though, I'm on the bandwagon, man.
So the way I kind of looked at this, I try to think of what would be a terrible outcome.
Okay.
What would be so-so, and what would be very, very encouraging.
Okay. And by the way, we did not discuss anything prior to the show.
No.
Just the names.
No.
That's all we came up with.
So I think for just what would be very concerning and ugly and bad, I'm not even talking about his stats, is just victories. Because I think this is the season where we have to start looking at, did you win or did you lose? Not making excuses. The defense got better. I think there's still some holes, but the defense is better.
On paper.
You have weapons that you didn't have before that should be better on paper.
Yeah.
And so you were a 3-win team last year. Now, granted, could you have won 5? Should you have won 5? Of course. But every team in the league probably says, oh, yeah, we could have won 2 more than we did.
Thank God they lost that Washington game.
Looking back on it, hey, 3-14 did everything it needed to do. But I feel you should have probably been a 5-win team, maybe 6. And that's the new low bar. Okay. So to me, if Fields is leading them to 6 or fewer wins, that's a bad sign. Because again, they have to start making a decision pretty soon on, do you pick up his 5th-year option? And not just that, is he your quarterback of the future? Yeah,
you got 2 first-round picks next year. Are you going to use them to try to get a quarterback, or are you good to try to go again with Fields another year?
So if you're 5-12, maybe you have to have that conversation. Now,
you hesitated because the math has changed over the last couple of years.
No, there's that extra game. Now, of course, I'm assuming he plays 15 games.
Sure.
So maybe minor thing here and there.
Yeah.
He played 15 last year.
Okay.
So that's how I looked at it we're in trouble if we're a 5-win team or even a 6-win team. That's troubling to me.
I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, and I feel like I'm already kind of giving him excuses, and I'm going to be that guy.
I think we're known for that already.
yeah, I mean, we're the Bears, right? Like we're Bears fans. We have to have excuses. I do find it hard to make wins a quarterback only stat. And I know you're not trying to do that, but if Justin Fields, I mean, there was a 4-week span where the Chicago Bears led the NFL in average points and they lost all 4 games. I can't solely put that on Justin Fields. However, the passing still needs to be better.
Agreed. And that's why I led by saying with what we hope is an improved defense.
Yes.
It gets rid of one part of an excuse. Now, again, you lose 33.
Well, and you mentioned it
35.
too. I mean, you have DJ Moore now, right? Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney are your wide receivers 2 and 3. Equinemius St. Brown is like 4 or 5 on the roster. Going into the season, he was number 1.
Yes.
Like, I shouldn't say that. Darnell Mooney was number 1. Equinemius was number 2. Yeah. Pringle.
He was injured though.
Like, yes. Like N'Keal Harry, they tried to, that experiment.
DJ Moore is none of those dudes.
No. Like, and you're already seeing the chemistry happen in training camp, all the reports. I mean, he's gaining weapons and losing excuses.
Exactly.
So
that's why, I mean, you're right. You could lose some games because of the defense, which doesn't fall on him. But at the same time, a better defense hopefully picks him up on certain things too. Right. And it kind of balances out.
And I want to see the efficiency. That to me is key because, we talked about it. The 2 main things that I feel like Justin Fields struggled with last year was anticipatory throws where you actually threw a guy who wasn't open. But the problem is I don't think he trusted anyone to do it except for maybe Darnell Mooney. And then the dump off passes, like he just never did these like check downs. I mean, Kirk Cousins. Okay, no, even better. I have a better example. Jordan Love.
Oh no.
Had 1 game where he his stats look phenomenal if you just look at the stats. But one of his passes was like a 7-yard check down that went for a touchdown by Christian Watson. It was like a 70-some yard run or reception, technically. Okay. That wasn't happening with Justin Fields. There wasn't the 7-yard check down, the 2-yard check down. There was none of that on a consistent basis. And when he tried to do it, it was off a guy's helmet or tipped ball. Finally, he started doing those different side angle throws and things were getting completed, but it wasn't going for big gains.
But that kind of brings me to what I was going to say with a very successful season, what that would look like.
Yes.
And so I did crunch a little bit of numbers. This is the only person I dove in on numbers.
Before you do that, I love when Justin crunches numbers because I never know where he's going to go with it, and it throws my mind off.
So statistically, I mean, you got people saying he's a running back playing quarterback. Yep. Get that crap out of here. That's not accurate. However, his statistics aren't all that impressive. But here's the thing. He threw, on average, 21 pass attempts per game. That's pretty low.
It's very low. And if you think about it, it was probably much lower in the beginning of the season.
Yes. And I see that number going up for a few important reasons. Okay. The Bears led the league, not in a good way, in giving up sacks.
Yeah.
Okay. Those don't become pass attempts because you're running for your life and you're taking sacks.
Correct.
Okay. We know what he did running the ball, which is why people are calling him a running back. He had over 1,000 yards, as we know, but he had 160 rush attempts. That's too many.
Yeah.
That number's got to come down. The sack number should come down and needs to. And those become pass attempts, most likely. So I think he can go from 21 pass attempts a game to around 28.
Okay.
And I did some numbers, crunched some numbers. Okay. Now, for yards per attempt, he ranked in the middle of the league last year at 7.1 yards per attempt. So even if he stays at that, which I would hope he goes up, because your favorite thing to look at is completion percentage.
Yep.
If that goes up, your yards per attempt's most likely going to go up because obviously when you have an incomplete pass, it adds 0 to that total. Okay. You got a guy like DJ Moore. You've got better weapons. You've got better protection. But let's say it stays right at 7.1. If the attempts go up, He's sitting at 2,982 yards for the season, which, again, I'm projecting he plays 15 games. So that's right around
over 15 games.
Over 15 games.
So if he does play the full season, you're looking at like 31.
But just so you know, 7.1 at 28 attempts is still it's just under 200 yards per game.
Okay.
I'm hoping he goes above that.
Yeah, I want them to be 230, 240.
Exactly. And if he does that, now you're starting to see some really impressive numbers. You feel he's your quarterback of the now, of the future. Hopefully you're winning, like I said, more than 6 games. So that would be success to me, is his attempts go up because we have a better O-line play. We're sustaining drives, converting on third downs. That's not something they were very good at last year. Better than the year before, I believe, but not great. So I think a good season, a great season even for him. He eclipses 3,000 yards passing. He's still going to run. I don't want it to be 1,000. Even if that's cut in half, that's still pretty impressive.
I'm good with 500 to 700 yards.
Yeah. So now somewhere in between the bad and the good, you do have to have that conversation of, is he your guy?
And that's why he's number 1 on this list. He's got the most to prove. It's the nature of the beast of playing that position. And we didn't, as much as, I think you and I believe in Justin Fields, there's still question marks. And I think that's okay at this point. He's going into year 2 in Getsy's offense. He's got the weapons. If the offensive line can improve the way we are expecting it to improve, he's got no excuses.
Right. I try not to be like an alarmist or an excuse maker.
Yeah.
But there are not going to be as many excuses this year. You got to put up, shut up. I
mean, if they're scoring 30 points a game and the defense is letting up 35 points a game and they're, still 6-win team.
Yeah.
I'm okay with running it back with Justin Fields.
Of course.
But if the team's only averaging 21 points a game and they're losing because the offense can't score.
Okay, put it this way. If they average 30 points a game and only win 6 because the defense is bad, Matt Eberflus becomes the guy I'm asking questions about.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't put coaches in this category.
We didn't put coaches in. So.
All right, well, let's obviously everyone probably knew Justin Fields was going to be on this list, but let's move on to number 2. We alluded to his name a little bit here in the beginning when I said I was overseas working on my modeling career. I did not quit my day job, by the way. And we
already saw you model those socks on the last episode.
That's right, and no pants. At least that's what it looked like in some of those photos. Chase Claypool is getting a lot of heat right now. Didn't participate at all. He was there, but wasn't participating at OTAs or minicamp. And some fans are not happy with the fact that he's not doing football things and, working on improving whatever is going on with his minor injuries. And Mark Silverman of ESPN kind of floated out that he has an inside source saying that the Chicago Bears organization aren't happy with him at this point. So I think that kind of fueled things. But the big thing is he was overseas doing some modeling. Turns out he was also over there like representing the NFL and the Chicago Bears, doing a flag football thing as a brand ambassador, trying to promote the NFL to Europe. I mean, who cares at this point? Like, this is the time of year. Like, yes, it is their job to improve in certain areas, but it's also their time to unwind. And you mentioned Byron Pringle. If we were talking about last year during this time, Byron Pringle was the one getting arrested for
reckless
driving with a minor.
Yeah.
There was 2 other guys that had incidents during this time. I'd much rather hear about somebody doing a modeling show than stuff like that.
That story, and I'm not even sure I want to call it that, because so many people with very little information started riding off of that and just coming up with all these assumptions. And again, if this sounds like I'm trying to make excuses for him, that's not the case.
No.
Here's the thing. The Bears don't have to be worried about him right now. There will be a time where it's okay to be worried about him. And that's right around week 5, week 6. If he's not producing, then you're worried. And then you either trade him or you just say, well, we lost that trade, and most likely, hopefully Mooney's doing well and you know where your money's going to go in terms of re-signing. this is not the time to be worried.
No, and you threw it out to me. There was an article that you were reading that was represented by one site, but it was based off of a Bleacher Report article where a guy, I don't even remember the author of the article, came up with, I think, 7 or 8 names for different teams that veterans who might be on the roster bubble. Like, to consider him being on the roster bubble at this point is asinine.
That's so stupid.
Like,
even from a money standpoint,
right?
It would only save you $3 million, and they were not even at your floor yet.
Yeah, like you still have to spend a certain amount of money before the end of the season's over. Like
the end.
And yeah, defensive end, right? Now, I get it. Like Chase Claypool has not lived up to his rookie season. His rookie year, he was phenomenal. 871 yards, 9 touchdowns. Like everyone's like, yeah, like we wanted him in Chicago. I remember like that was the big thing. I was one of those people. I like Chase Claypool. I didn't think he was a second-round pick at that point. I thought maybe he was a third-rounder, but going in the second, whatever, it's fine. He didn't have that good of a season. We got to admit, he didn't. He does have to show us within those first few weeks, like the first quarter of the season. By week 4, if he's not doing anything, I'm going to have a problem.
So here's the thing also that I don't know why people are forgetting or not mentioning. Even if Chase Claypool is the most selfish, whatever type of player out there, he's in a contract year.
Yeah.
He's got to prove not just to the Bears, to the entire NFL that he is legit, that he's a difference maker, that he's all these things. So if that doesn't motivate him, then, sorry, you're not on this roster next year. And you're not going to win every trade.
No.
But to just outright act like, and you made a great point, by the way, is last year when they made that trade.
Yes.
Talk about the time in the season and everything that was happening and why that still was a good trade to make, whether it works out or not.
Yeah. So they were in the middle of it. Like they started out the season 2-1. I don't think people remember that. Like, and at that point in the year, it was 3-3. Like Justin Fields needed help. We were saying he doesn't have any help. He needs help. He needs help. Ryan Poles went out and got help and Ryan Poles spoke to it. The free agent market this year at wide receiver was weak.
Very weak.
A lot of guys re-signed the year before. They didn't hit the open market. So going out and trying to find someone to give Justin Fields another added weapon was the right move. It turned out they ended up getting the first pick in the draft. No one knew that at the time. Sure, I would have loved for them to trade the second-round pick that they had got in the Roquan Smith deal, right? Versus their pick. But the Green Bay Packers wanted Chase Claypool, right? So they were going after it. So they had to give that one up. Now, I say second-round pick. Stop calling it a first-round pick. Yes, he was the 32nd player. So, yes, technically you got the 32nd best player in the draft. But you don't get all the benefits that you get from it being a first-round pick. He didn't get paid first-round money.
5th-year option.
He didn't get the 5th-round option. So, and that 5th-round option is huge.
Yeah.
So, again, I sound like I'm making excuses, but we knew it was more than just that part of the year trade. It was a trade for the future. We needed to see what was going to happen. We still need to see what's going to happen. If it doesn't work out, what are we losing? Joey Porter Jr.? Like, that's what everyone keeps referencing? Like,
well, and the funny thing was in one of these idiotic articles, it was like Chase Claypool went and modeled, and then it's like bringing up the fact that Joey Porter Jr. played well in minicamp and might be vying for a position or a play time. And it's like, yeah, what's he doing right now?
Right.
He could be playing Madden. He could be.
It's not like Claypool wasn't there. Right. Darnell Mooney didn't participate either. Is everyone on his ass? No, because he's in the gym working out and he's putting out videos. Who are we worried about Chase Claypool's appearance? Like, clearly he looked fine in his outfits. He didn't look fat.
Yeah, I mean, I ordered one. So I'll let you know when I get some of those outfits, man. So I don't know. But the time for them to be frustrated is not now.
No.
It's later.
End of September, beginning of October.
All right. So we'll check back in then.
Yes.
And that's when
if you guys want to say, we told you so, sure, I get it. Like, I'm not like thrilled with it either. I'm not saying he's going to perform, but let's just give the guy a chance.
And had they not made that trade, they do have that 32nd pick, which they didn't know would be the 32nd pick at the time. but you'd be looking into that bad free agent class to bring in somebody.
Right.
You like Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, and there's no...
But he's not.
And is he going to come to Chicago at this point? No.
Most likely not. So you're going to get even a fringe guy of that bad group.
Yes.
And I don't know. Hopefully you still would have had DJ Moore. But so as far as Claypool performing, though, one thing I am worried about, and this kind of goes to our next guy as well, is they said that Fields really has this connection with Moore, and why not? He's an amazing receiver. I would hope that Moore is getting damn near 100 targets, if not more.
It's got to be more.
If not more, right? So you kind of do wonder, having Fields go from 21 attempts all the way up to 28 is a big jump. But the ball has to be spread around.
Well, and
you got Kmet.
I'm glad you said Kmet. That's where I was going next. By the way, you look at Kmet's stats, when Chase Claypool's on this roster, they skyrocket.
That's right.
Why? Because Kmet was able to work the inside of the field because they had to account for Claypool on the outside.
A 6'4" guy with speed. And...
Yeah. Like, he might not be getting the stats, but he's opening things up for other people too. So are you going to pay him $18 million a year for that? No. But you got to find somebody. And right now, they don't have anybody else that fits that mold.
Right. So we'll see. The other guy to talk about, though, is Mooney.
And you have to bring up Mooney. And this is the reason why we put him in here is like they're both on contract years. You're not going to keep both. You have DJ Moore. You're not going to keep both. You're likely to add a receiver in the draft. Unless they both ball out. But I highly doubt both of them will, plus DJ Moore, right? Like, if that's the case,
Fields has a 5,000-yard throwing.
Yeah, like that's not happening. I'm sorry. I love Fields, but it's not happening. So you have to put Mooney in this category. He had a breakout season, right, in 2021. Broke 1,000 yards. Still only had, 4 touchdowns, I think?
Yeah, that's always been the knock on him, is not enough production in terms of scoring, which...
Yeah, only 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But he broke 1,000 yards. Granted, I have to point this out too. He played in 17 games and he barely broke 1,000 yards. So if this was like a couple of years earlier, he would have only been in the 900s. But again, he broke 1,000 yards, got that like notch on his belt. We all thought he was going to come in doing really well for 2022. Didn't start well. Did not start well. He had a rough few.
I mean, did he even catch a ball?
At one point, I want to say there was like a game he was like 2 catches for like -1 yards. Like, it was bad. Okay. Only had 2 touchdowns. Did come on later, right? And then he gets hurt, ankle injury. Coming back now, trying to come back from that ankle injury. Everything looks good, right? But we got to see if he can build upon that 2021 season. And who is he? Is he that guy in 2021? Is he the guy we saw last year, or is he somewhere in between? If he's somewhere in between, I'm fine with that.
Well, something you said a few episodes back, I don't know what episode it was, that was really insightful, was the Bears seem very excited about the Tyler Scott pick. Mm-hmm. And if you look at his measurables, you look at his game, is it more of a Chase Claypool type of game, or is it more of a Darnell Mooney type of game? Mm-hmm. It's more of a Darnell Mooney type of game.
And Ryan Poles has not kept anyone yet.
And I don't care about that, by the way. But
I'm just saying, like,
you're right. Clean house.
Yeah.
He brought in Claypool and wants that to look good and be right.
He did. But I do think
it will come down to this performance this year.
For sure it will. And if it wasn't for Mooney's injury, maybe Mooney, no one's gotten a contract yet. And if anyone's going to get a contract, I'm giving it to Cole Kmet.
So age-wise, Claypool, I think, is 24, 25. And I don't know, is Mooney a little older?
Mooney is 25, going to be 26.
That makes sense because it's the next number.
And yeah, Claypool's younger. He's 24, turning 25 this year.
So 1 year.
His birthday is on Friday. Happy birthday, Chase Claypool.
July 7th?
Wow.
It's my nephew's birthday. It's
nice.
A good day. 7-7. So basically, the worst case scenario would be if they both don't look good or both deal with injuries or whatever. But hopefully one or both.
Yeah.
Again, and, a great point. You bring in a DJ Moore, the type of coverage you're going to get now, I think, becomes, Mooney was going in as the 1 last year and then was not producing.
Right.
Now he slots in at your 2.
Which he was
if he's healthy.
In 21.
Right.
Because Allen Robinson was still
Exactly.
Here.
So that could really help him. That could really help Claypool. And hopefully they're all doing well, which means the Bears are doing well.
Yeah, Super Bowl, Super Bears.
We need to take a break now that you just said they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think we gotta bring it down a couple notches.
All right, so stay tuned. Hit the like button. Okay, hit the subscribe button. We're at 424 subscribers as this episode is starting. We are still planning to announce a pretty good giveaway, probably our best giveaway. Not probably, it will be our best giveaway for this show, and we'll probably announce it right around training camp time. I'm thinking.
There we go. Yeah.
So in a few episodes, maybe episode 50.
Ooh,
that sounds like the perfect time to do it.
There you go.
So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we're going to come back with our next 2 and maybe a couple honorable mentions.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, enjoy these ads.
All right, we are back. Hallis Huddle, episode 48. And in the first half of the episode, we were talking about very critical players that have a lot riding on this season. And of course, we started with Justin Fields, and then we went with 2 receivers that are both in contract years in Claypool and Mooney. But now we're going to switch it over to the defensive side of the ball. There are some key players also in contract years that we think have a lot to prove this season. The first one we're going to talk about is Jaylon Johnson. So, just kind of in the break, we were just talking a little bit. I think one of the things we want to see is just his availability. He played in 11 games last year, which, injuries do happen, but you're in a contract year. You got to prove some things. Hopefully he can get that number up a little higher. And then as much as, I think we like this guy, as far as turning the ball back over to your offense, which is a key part of playing defense,
especially in Matt Eberflus's defense.
Yes, that's a key part of, and back to all the way to the Lovey days. Here on Chicago, we like to see the defense get turnovers, and that is not a specialty of Jaylon Johnson.
No.
So I would hope, and I don't know if this is just a pipe dream, but I'd love to see him get a few picks this year, and that would show his value increasing, more familiarity with the system, maybe get some picks. But if that's just not his game, maybe that's just not his game. But they're going to have to make a decision to pay him like a cornerback 1. And typically your cornerback 1s are, causing turnovers.
Yeah, so his rookie year, I remember it was like, man, this guy's like always around the ball. Like he ended up with 15 pass defense, okay? Or some people call them pass deflections. And
his rookie year?
His rookie year. Okay. And at one point, he was like leading the league in that.
Wow.
But he had the shoulder injury, got hurt, only played 13 games. So he didn't end up leading the league in that category, but I'm pretty sure he's probably at least still finished top 10. But he never got his hands on the ball, to get the takeaway. So it was always like his stigma, and you're like, oh, he's going to get one. He's going to get one. And I want to say he even had one, and like his feet were out of bounds, and so it didn't count.
And sometimes turnovers are luck. We get
for
that.
Sure, for sure. But the playmakers like Eddie Jackson, like puts himself in those positions to make those plays, right? 2021 comes around, he gets his first interception. You thought, okay, he's got that, monkey off his back, and this is it. But no other turnovers in that regard. He did have a forced fumble. 2022, no interceptions, forced fumble. But he's been basically a shutdown corner, right? So like, it kind of like, how do you view him? And I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on the takeaways. I know it matters, but he's never allowed any more than a 59% completion percentage when being targeted. His downfall in his first 2 years, he was given like the stats guys basically said, okay, he allowed 5 touchdowns each year, but he's also going up against your top receivers. So he's going up against, I remember he was shutting down Mike Evans in the Tampa Bay game in 2021. And Mike Evans still got his touchdown. Like, it still happens because those guys are elite guys. They're going to get their stats. Last year, he only let up one. So, I mean, it just depends. Like, you come to the table. He decided not to go to the beginning of the year to voluntary OTAs. We talked about this. Right. It turns out he was doing stuff back at home, spending time with his daughter. He's got a young girl. I think she's 3. I have a 3-year-old daughter, so like I can definitely understand wanting to spend time with family. He was also doing a lot of charitable work. Like, it's voluntary. Like, yes, should you be there? Probably. I would. That's just how I am. But my wife also calls me a workaholic. So it just depends on what you're valuing at that time, and it's not affecting him on the football field.
Yeah. I mean, he said it wasn't about a negotiation tactic, and we're going to have to take him at his word on that.
Correct.
How he should negotiate is how he plays on the field.
Yeah.
And you said it in the last segment, and I'm sure it's something to keep in our back of our minds. Poles hasn't re-signed, I don't think, a single player who he inherited, which he inherited a crappy situation. Mm-hmm. So I guess from that standpoint, you can't blame the guy. But here's a guy coming off his rookie deal, young player. To your point, at certain points, certain aspects of his game, he looks like a cornerback 1. Not to mention, who you putting in there if you don't sign the guy?
I lied.
About?
This is the Patrick Scales episode, and I forgot Patrick Scales signed a 1-year contract last year.
See, Poles, we know what he values now. It's long snapping. Long snappers win championships.
Hey, Patrick Manley, man. That guy was here for like 18.
Legend. Actually, most 18 games years played, I think, in Bears history or something like that.
Probably.
Injury risk is much lower, but
yeah, for sure. So here's the thing. I'm not sure I want to keep him. I'm not. I think Tyreek Stevenson is a pretty solid pick that they got in the second round to
seems like a ball hawk type.
To be a ball hawk type, right? Kyler Gordon's a ball hawk type. Like, even Brisker is more of a ball hawk type. Like, you can tell that's what they want. They literally had ball hawk freaking shirts when he was with Indianapolis on Hard Knocks.
But what you just said kind of had me thinking differently, though. So let's say, I mean, this season's the season they have to make this decision.
Yeah.
But let's say he plays well. He still doesn't really produce interceptions, but starts to show you, again, 59% completion going up against the #1 receiver on these other teams.
Yeah.
That's very good. And if you're playing Gordon in the slot, Tyreek Stevenson across from him, Brisker's doing crazy things at safety. Like, if you have 3 ball hawks in your secondary, you can have a shutdown who's not a ball hawk as your other guy.
For sure.
So it's going to come down to how he plays and how he performs this season.
I might be talking out of my ass. I might be talking out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure later in Darrelle Revis's career, before Revis Island was no longer an island and he was getting burned constantly, there was many years he didn't have a lot of turnovers or takeaways
because they didn't even try to challenge him.
Exactly. So I'm okay with having one corner like that if your other guys are producing.
Well, the reason I think they called it the island is that side of the field, whatever side he was on, the ball couldn't come over there.
Yeah.
So if you can make a quarterback so predictable that he can only throw one side of the field, now you have your ball hawks like Brisker shade that way.
Yeah.
And the turnovers come. So as a team, they didn't produce enough turnovers.
Correct.
You mentioned that as a bold prediction that you think they're going to get to 30 this year.
Yeah.
I mean, no, seriously, that'd be a good target, a good goal. But it doesn't have to be because Jalen Johnson has 7 picks.
Oh, no, I'm fine with. I'd like to see him get
3.
2.
I want 3.
Okay, 3.
3 is a huge jump considering he only has 1 in 3 seasons.
That's true.
But hey, shoot for the moon. Did we good on Jalen Johnson?
I got nothing else to speak about the guy.
So one more guy on the defense, also in a contract year. I don't think it's been hyped quite as much, and for good reason, because he plays on a unit that is deplorable.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to rack my brain. Bad wasn't enough.
No.
So we're talking about Trevis Gipson, and he had shown flashes in his career, which makes you hopeful that he can be an impactful player on the D-line. But last season was not when those flashes were happening.
Nope.
And we talked many times about how your sack leaders were both a linebacker that you traded in week 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And a safety who was a rookie were your individual sack leaders last season. That's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
And so Travis Gipson on a prove it year, to me, has to be. My bold prediction was a D lineman would have double-digit sacks. I wasn't thinking it would be Travis Gipson. I was hoping they were going to bring in a guy. I'm starting to doubt that that's going to happen.
I am too.
Unless there are some late cuts. Late trades happen too, and the Bears have been a part of those in the past.
Honestly, at this point,
Khalil Mack,
the only guy maybe, and I haven't looked to see if he's signed anywhere, but I don't think he has, is maybe Justin Houston can't find a home.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm talking also casualty cuts late.
Sure.
They're still got a lot of money to spend.
Okay, teams are at 90. They got to get to 53.
So, one of those late cuts or a late trade could still happen. But regardless, even if they do bring in a guy, I think Travis Gipson still has a lot to prove. And he's in the system for a second year. I think Eberflus, when he was defensive coordinator with the Colts, and maybe this is one of the reasons they haven't signed that big name player, is that they were able to generate those sacks with no-name players. Yeah, and then they brought him in, and he forgot everything he did in Indianapolis.
But that's because they didn't have a DeForest Buckner, right? And we're hoping that Jermon Dexter can kind of help replace that.
Yeah, you're right. The 3-tech is the key to the defense.
Yeah.
They did address the D-line on the interior, just not on the outside edge. And maybe they like Travis Gipson. Maybe they like Dominique Robinson.
So we've heard them speak to it many times that they need to build from the inside out. So it doesn't surprise me that they focused on DT. I was a little surprised they went with 3 of them versus no defensive ends.
Yeah.
But let me give you guys some hype on why Travis Gipson could be and is my bounce back player. I wrote an article about this for Bear Goggles On, is my bounce back player on the defensive side of the football. Travis Gipson led the defensive line in sacks, tied with 3. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Had 7 the year prior. Last year, he was double teamed the 5th most out of any other defensive player. There was a certain amount of snaps, I don't remember what they were, required in the NFL.
Wow.
Guys like Aiden Hutchinson saw those amount of double teams. I'm blanking on the other guys that were up there. He unfortunately did not have the win success rate that those guys did. But if your interior of the line is able to generate pressure, he's not going to be being double teamed as often.
Okay.
Now, do I think he's going to reach double-digit sacks? No. But I think he could get to 7 or 8.
So the year that he had 7, if you had to choose to double team someone, are you going to double team Gipson or are you going to double team Khalil Mack?
You're going to double team Khalil Mack. Or that was Robert Quinn's 19 sack season.
You're right. Robert Quinn was balling out too.
Yeah.
So he was clearly not being double teamed nearly as much. Definitely not top 5 in the league.
He's not a. Let me back it up. I'm not trying to say that he's going to be a top tier defensive end. He's not. He's not. He just isn't.
Even if he doubles 3 sacks.
That'd be awesome.
Exactly. That's crazy production compared to what he did last year.
But I do think he can be a serviceable guy. Does he earn another contract with Chicago? I don't know. Maybe not. But if you're able to get him on a decent deal and you bring him back for 2-3 more years and he's not your main guy, I'm okay with that too.
So
I got one more thing. Travis Gipson started out as an outside linebacker. Now his hand's on the ground. He's playing defensive end. It's a different animal. He's going into the 2nd time doing this now in the NFL. More experience. We think Justin Fields is being in 2nd year with Luke Getsy. Why can't Travis Gipson improve now that he's had more time to get acclimated to playing with a hand on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Like,
those are
2 main reasons why I think he could be a big bounce back candidate on the defensive side of the ball.
Those are great points. And I just want to say one more thing. If Fields performs well, I know you wouldn't think that has anything to do with Travis Gipson, but if he performs well and you remove that question of who's our quarterback of the future, having 2 first-round picks next year, one of those could be on a dominant edge rusher.
Yes.
Okay? I know you want to trade both of them to get Marvin Harrison Jr., but...
I do.
Are you marrying the guy?
I mean, sorry, Ashley.
I do.
I mean, okay, to your point, say one of those picks is a top 5 pick, Marvin Harrison, you're not going to get him without trading the other one to move up, right? But like maybe you take a top tier left tackle and you get a top tier defensive end. Like that's a fantastic draft.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And that is, again, if Fields has proven what he needs to, that frees up a huge question mark.
Yeah.
And like you said, maybe they're happy with Claypool or Mooney or both, in which case Marvin Harrison Jr. is not as much of a need or a want. So, all right. Those were the guys we really wanted to talk about. Some on the offense, some on the defense, contract years for many of them.
Yes.
But there was another guy I wanted to throw out there, and that's Tevin Jenkins. And not for the same reasons as these other players.
Yeah, no, he's an honorable mention.
Honorable mention. And for him, there's a couple things. One, he's really impressed me with his ability to accept being moved around on the line. Mm-hmm. And now he's being moved again. And so that's one reason to take a look at him. But the bigger reason is his past injuries. He's had some very concerning injuries to the point where if he were to have more of that this season, you start to question his overall career.
Yep.
When he's been on the field, he's looked really good. Last year at left guard.
Yep.
He was definitely doing the job. I mean, the overall performance of the line was very bad, but he was standing out in positive ways, especially with his rush blocking, which I know they still want to be a running first team.
Yeah, and I don't want this episode to go like super, super long.
Yeah.
But the fact that they thought Lucas Patrick was better than him because of a fucking Wednesday practice, I almost at that point wanted Matt Eberflus fired. Okay, fired. You want a Rob's rant? It's happening right now. That pissed me off to no other. Oh, he didn't perform well in Wednesday's practice, so we're going to put Lucas Patrick. Lucas Patrick was the worst offensive, worse than Sam Mustipher. Worse than Sam Mustipher. And he's still here, by the way.
Maybe in that Wednesday practice, he was double teaming Travis Gipson. It just looked amazing.
Maybe.
So I think for him, it's about the availability, and then hopefully changing positions isn't going to, be too big of a change for him.
No.
What's interesting about him changing over, though, so he will be going to right guard.
No, he's going to left.
Oh, I'm sorry. So he played right guard last year. I messed that up.
Okay, I didn't catch it, so.
My bad. Well, either way, the tackles are both very young.
Yes.
You got Braxton Jones on the left in his second year.
He's an honorable mention because can he repeat his performance or improve upon his performance from last year?
I hope he got stronger.
Yeah.
Because the bull rush was the only thing I saw in his game that was like an obvious glaring issue.
And I think we need to be a little bit patient because it does take time for you to put on that type of strength. He could still struggle with it at times again this year, but we need to see progress. Something
that you have to remember with a rookie, and he's no longer one, is when you're a rookie, you do all you can to be ready for combine, and in his case, the Senior Bowl and all that. But then you go straight into playing.
Yeah.
Whereas now you're a year 2 player, you're already a veteran.
Yeah.
You have an off season.
Yep.
Dedicated to the things you need to dedicate yourself to. But my point with Jenkins is moving positions isn't all that easy. And sometimes when you move, you want to be like next to a guy who knows what he's doing, next to a veteran.
Yeah.
Whereas he is that veteran to Braxton Jones. Or if he even played on the right side, you're dealing with Darnell Wright as a rookie. So that part's a little concerning. But he seems like if he's out there and healthy, he's going to be an important part of the offensive line. That should be much improved.
Yep.
So you said what you wanted to say on Braxton Jones?
Yeah, he was the only one. I mean, I think maybe Cody Whitehair a little bit just to see, can you prove again that you can be a good center? But in my bold predictions, I had him making another Pro Bowl. So
if we wanted this episode to go longer, I would throw out Santos, but or we could just talk scales because it's the scales episode. But I think we covered the key guys.
We touched on it enough. So, okay, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to comment if you have a player that you think should be ranked higher than our top 5 that you think they have more to prove than the 5 people we mentioned. Again, coaches were not included. Let us know. Shout at us. I try to comment within 24 to 48 hours. Work is kicking my ass, so I might be a little bit slow. But we love the support, and we want to keep going. And, make sure, again, hit the subscribe button so you're here for at least episode 50 to see what the giveaway is.
That's right. Love it.
Yep.
All right, man. It's good to be back.
It is. Bear down.
Bear down.